Thanks very much, team, and good morning, everyone. As we are remembering the victims of September 11th all day today, 21 years since the worst terrorist attack on our great country. Joining me right now as we look back as well as look ahead is GOP leader Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader and Congressman from California. Good morning to you, Congressman.
Good morning, Maria. As we spend this time, everyone who's old enough knows exactly where they were at this very moment. They knew what they watched with a tower coming down in another. We can never forget, but we can never forget not just those nearly 3,000 souls we lost, the heroes, those who ran into the building, the innocents that just went to work, or those on Flight 93, the Todd Beamers, who when they found out what was going on, they gave their own life, just as those first responders did, to save us on the ground. And what we truly need to remember is, why did these terrorists do this to us? They wanted us to be afraid. They wanted America to be afraid. But what did we do after this moment? We didn't choose fear, we chose freedom. We should remember what we did the next day and the next day. We united as one nation. We put our political parts aside. We worshiped together. We united together. People signed up to go to the military. People came down to dig out those towers. In one of the darkest moments of America, it showed some of the greatest character of Americans. And I hope as we honor their lives and we look back to this, that we do never forget, because as school starts again, every new person going to college was not alive when this took place. So if we never want it to happen again, we must remember what took place 21 years ago.
Yeah, I think this is a really important point, that so many of our young people were not here on this fateful day, September 11th, 2001. We are looking back today, but we are also looking ahead. And unfortunately, as we look ahead, we see policy in place today, Congressman, that has put the country in a more vulnerable position. The botched withdrawal of Afghanistan sparked our adversaries to get on the move. And let's not forget that it's also 10 years ago today that was the deadly Benghazi terrorist attack as well, in which the U.S. ambassador to Libya, Christopher Stevens, and 3 other brave Americans were killed. We are remembering that as well as we look ahead to try to understand what kind of policy is best to keep this great nation protected. It doesn't feel that way right now.
It doesn't. And remember, at that moment, 21 years ago, today, we had a commander-in-chief that united the country instead of dividing the country. Foreign policy matters. You brought up a very good point 10 years ago today, what happened in Benghazi. But you want to look towards the future. You watched what happened in Afghanistan, that botched action. Why did we close Bagram's base? Why did we allow those prisoners to get out? Why would we even close in the summer and withdraw? Why would we withdraw without bringing out all the Americans first? All these decisions should actually be investigated so they don't get repeated. Now I have a real concern, the aggression of China. Russia now into Ukraine. Even on our southern borders, cartels becoming stronger by the day. But now we have an administration that is negotiating with the regime in Iran. When we had such progress with the Abraham Accords, to reverse that is wrong. And that is a real concern of what will happen in the future. If you want to know about 21 years ago today, you've got to pay attention to what is happening now, so in the future, nothing like that happens again.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up the Iran deal. We are going to be talking with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State, who put in place those Abraham Accords, who put in place protections against China, protections against Iran. And yet right now we understand that this administration is just days away from confirming that the U.S. will get back into this Iran deal. You're the head of the GOP, Congressman, the minority leader. Have you been consulted at all? Are they going around Congress to jam through this deal, even though poll after poll, general after general tells us how dangerous it is to get back in business with Iran and get revenue flowing to this terrorist nation once again?
They've never briefed anybody in Washington. I've not been briefed on this. Moving forward, why wouldn't you consult? And you are supposed to, based upon the laws that we have passed, consult Congress and the Senate. Because I think they're taking actions, and I do not want this to be the part, but you want to bring, are they trying to get the Iranian oil back into the market to try to lower the gas price based upon stopping the production in America? Are they going to provide Iran with money to fund terrorism around the world? With such progress we made in the last administration with the Abraham Accords, where we found peace in the Middle East was growing, to make that reverse course has actually made the world less safe. And when we look towards the future, this is very concerning. Because think about in these negotiations, this Biden administration went to Russia to allow Russia to negotiate. What is Russia currently doing in Ukraine? Do they have the best interests of America? So why wouldn't you use American representatives, those who have the voices that the people have lent to? Why couldn't they oversee this or be briefed on this to have any idea if America should move forward with any agreement with Iran?
Yeah. And China is an equally disturbing story. Particularly given all of the reports and news about the influence peddling from the Biden family. And here we are rolling over for China on so many ways, canceling the China initiative, et cetera. What are you going to do in terms of foreign policy? I know, Congressman, that you are very close to unveiling your four-pillared commitment to America. What is it? What can you tell us about it? Does it include foreign policy initiatives to get this country back strong the way it was and not in a vulnerable position?
Yes, Maria, we think an election and even the policies today should make America stronger. And what we've watched from the Democratic policies, their wasteful spending. I mean, their wasteful spending has brought inflation, the rising cost of everything you want to buy, from not only your gas, but in the grocery stores. Every American should ask themselves, could they afford to give up 1 month's salary? Most people would say no, but do you realize that's been taken from you because of how high inflation is based upon the Democratic spending? And they were the only ones to pass this American Rescue Plan. But they were even warned by Larry Summers, by Steve Ratner calls it the original sin of inflation. So we will come out with the commitment to America, that if you would trust us with the majority, what would we do? Well, first of all, we would build an economy that is strong. We would stop inflation, make America energy independent, and lower your gas price. We would build a nation that is safe. We've watched the Democratic policies make it the deadliest of America in the last 20 years. We wouldn't defund the police. We would fund the police. We would not allow these prosecutors to not uphold the law. We would also create a country that is free, based upon freedoms. We'd look at big tech and others. Then we would fundamentally have a government that is accountable. And we should have oversight of what's going on. We've watched this president have weak foreign policy. We've watched what he said when the speaker was going to go to Taiwan. He allowed China to speak to us in a manner they've never spoken to us before. We've watched them continue to grow. So we will build an economy that changes the supply chain from China and bring it back to America. These are just a few of the ideas that we will roll out in the commitment to America. So everybody can make a decision. Do you want to keep down the pace of inflation, of rising crime, of a border that's not secure? I mean, you've covered the border better than most anyone, Maria. You know what's happening on that border. You know people on the terrorist watch list. Here we are 21 years away after 9/11. They're coming across this border from Yemen and others. Why are they coming to America, and what do they have planned? We watch fentanyl now become the #1 killer of Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. That's directly coming the chemicals from China and funding the cartels inside Mexico. But do you realize 300 people a day are dying from fentanyl? That's a plane crashing each and every day. But this administration doesn't believe it's a crisis. We will secure that border.
I'm glad you mentioned the fentanyl, because I know that there's an important story that we want to share about something that took place in your district. I'm going to get to that in a moment, but we're pretty much at this point on campaign season, right? I mean, campaign season has now kicked off. I know not a lot gets done in the coming couple of weeks for you and your colleagues in terms of policy, because we are all now gearing up 56 days away from the midterm elections. I want to play a soundbite from one of your colleagues on the left from New York, Representative Maloney, who feels you're not going to be able to do any of that you just discussed, your commitment to America, because he thinks the Democrats are going to keep pushing forward with their policies. Listen to this from Representative Maloney. Watch.
Are Democrats going to hold the majority in the House?
Yes, we're going to hold the majority in the House because we have a plan to fix the problems our country is facing.
No word on who caused the problems, Congressman, but what is your response?
Well, it's very clear they caused the problems. Inflation goes directly back to the American Rescue Plan that only Democrats voted for. It was such a wasteful spending. Do you know where they sent the money? They sent the money even to prisoners inside the jails. The Boston bomber, he got a check from the Democrats. Did that help the economy but only bring greater inflation? They have no plan to fix it. In the commitment to America, we will stop inflation. But you know, Maloney takes a very pride moment there saying they're going to keep the majority. Maybe the race is more competitive, but I think even Maloney's race has a really good chance of us defeating him, even the head of the DCCC.
You know, you talk about all of these issues, and you would think that these issues we all agree on. I mean, the border, for example. Talk to us about what happened in your district. A young person, 13 years old, went to school with drugs in the backpack. What happened?
This is so devastating, but it just happened in Bakersfield, California. But don't think that your city is not a border city today. Every single city in America is now a border city based upon the Democratic policies of bringing millions of people across this border from 160 different countries. But it's not just people. It's terrorists, and now it's drugs. Fentanyl is the #1 killer of Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. But in a junior high, we're talking about 13-year-olds. A 13-year-old brought 150 fentanyl pills disguised as another drug. When it was discovered, the counselor there luckily discovered it. When he picked the pills out, he OD'd. Not because he took the pills, simply because it touched him. That is how dangerous this is. This is happening in every single community in America, but our White House is doing nothing. That's why we need a new plan, a new direction for America that not only secures our border, but lowers our gas price, makes us energy independent.
Yeah.
It also brings us safe and secure in our streets. We're not safe to walk out anymore because the Democratic policies actually caused the problem. Defunding of the police, not prosecuting, this no bail program.
Well,
we want a new direction, and that's what a commitment to America will do.
These are issues that we all should be agreeing on. I mean, it's so ridiculous that we don't agree that a wide open border is dangerous. Here we are on September 11th, and we're remembering 60 or 80 people got to the southern border, and they were on the terrorist watch list. And yet, Joe Biden, rather than uniting us around these obvious issues, this is what we hear from Joe Biden and the White House over the last 2 weeks. Listen to this.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos.
It wasn't divisive. The way that we saw this speech is that he was talking to majority of the country who agree that we have to protect our democracy, who agree that we have to protect our freedom, who agree that we have to protect our rights.
Let me just point out the poll right now that we talk about every day, 75% of the American people say that the country is headed in the wrong direction. I'm not sure what she's talking about right there in terms of speaking to the people who agree, but this is hardly unity, and this is what Joe Biden promised us on Inauguration Day, Congressman.
Yes, I thought he was going to unite us. He has divided us further. We're more divided today than we were on his Inauguration Day. But listen to why. Why does 75% of America believe we're in the wrong direction? Because everything costs more based upon the Democratic policies. You don't feel safe in the streets anymore based upon Democratic policies. You've got drugs running throughout. You've got a cartel. You've got more than enough terrorists that have now come into our country on the terrorist watch list than we had on 9/11. And this is a Democratic Party that has no plan to fix it, but Republicans do for a new direction. I think we need somebody that will not attack you based upon your political beliefs, but actually respect a difference of policy and unite us based upon that we are all Americans. That's something we should remember today more than ever. But this president plays politics instead of putting people first. This election 56 days from now is not about Republicans or Democrats. It's about America. What type of America do you want? Do you want one that respects one another's differences of opinion? Do you want one that you can get ahead instead of everything costing more? There is 20 million Americans today who can't afford their electricity bill.
Yep.
We've got kids that are challenging whether they can go to school. Yes.
That's right. Congressman, we have, 56 days before the midterm elections. How are you feeling? What do you think you are looking at in these next 56 days? I know that you've been talking a lot about the candidates, a new diverse portfolio of candidates. Give us your sense of how you're feeling going into the midterms and what races we should be watching.
Well, this is going to be a competitive race. That no one gives you the majority. You have to earn it. But I think if people sit back and look and make a real decision based upon what's the future of America, do you want to continue where we've been going? The high cost of living, the unsecurity and unsafe inside your streets. Or do you want something different? We have a very inclusive group of people who are running across this country. I believe Republicans will take the majority, yes. Why? Our policies are stronger, not based upon party, but based upon a stronger country, that you want to bring jobs back to America. And if you just look a few months ago, Mayra Flores, in her election down in Texas, never elected before, a district that Biden won by more than 13 percentage points and Obama won by 22, an 84% Hispanic seat. And Mayra Flores is the first Mexican-born woman elected to Congress. That's a great deal of pride and inclusion inside this Republican Party. But that's not just one-off. I believe you're going to see Monica de la Cruz, Cassie, also elected in Texas. You're going to see Juan Ciscomani or John James in Michigan. Across this country, the Republicans have one of the strongest number of people running for office that are qualified, that have served their nation after 9/11. John James went to West Point. Wesley Hunt went to West Point with him. Jennifer Green went to the Air Force Academy. We have such a cadre of individuals. Derek Van Orden, a Navy SEAL. Eli Crane in Arizona, another Navy SEAL. They have real leadership to know what America needs today. They faced it before. They didn't have fear. They chose freedom. And that's exactly what we need in this next election in 56 days.
All right. We will be watching all of that. By the way, we are talking with Mayra Flores from Texas in the program this morning. She'll be on in about 15 minutes. We are also talking with Herschel Walker from Georgia, who is leading in his Senate race right now against Raphael Warnock. We'll talk about that. And we will also speak with former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Congressman, thanks very much for joining us on this very important day. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria, but also happy birthday, Maria.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Congressman. One thing happened on this day, which was okay. Thank you, Kevin McCarthy, joining us there. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens, stories that are changing the world and changing your life. From Tucker Carlson tonight.